The battle did not last days, but exactly 14 minutes. The video feeds showed no bright laser blasts, no ship-to-ship calls asking for terms. The Vathari cruisers simply stopped moving in the dark. No grand speeches, no demands for surrender, no mercy. Massive mining rigs threw huge rocks into the fleet gaps. Bulk cargo ships crushed warship hulls from the inside out using heavy gravity locks. Elder Salas watched the silent video feed from the Imperial Records room. The old Realloy record keeper knew the exact shape of the end when he saw it. What they unchained that day in the dark, I wish the records simply stopped there. 3 months earlier, the Imperial War Chamber smelled of burnt air and polished bone. The huge room sat deep inside the crust of a dead moon. Smoke from sweet incense hid the high glass ceiling. Red flags hung from the walls, each one standing for a dead world. The room stretched for half a mile. Fire burned in deep pits along the walls, casting long black shadows over the command tables. Dominus Vrexeth stood in the center of the vast stone floor. Light bounced off his thick scale armor. 12 victory marks sat cut into his shoulder plates. The Vathari Empire ruled over 400 star systems. They took a new world every 10 years. Vrexeth pointed a black claw at a slow blue dot on the main screen. "Write it down as a tax penalty," Vrexeth said. His voice held zero feeling. "Burn the ship." Salas sat in the lower viewing ring. His thin arms shook. He had lived 310 years. His job was to file the final words of dying species. "Dominus," Salas whispered, "that is a human ship. They have no navy. Do not touch their workers." Vrexeth did not turn his head. A species without warships is a species begging to be ruled. Salas spent the next 2 days watching the stolen video feeds from Sector 4. The Vathari spy tools picked up everything inside the human cargo ship. The vessel was called the Wandering Saint. It hauled 4,000 tons of fake grain to a hungry rock colony. It took 3 months just to make the slow trip from the core worlds to the edge of the map. Scrapes from tiny space rocks covered the outside paint. The ship looked old, slow, and tired. The main hold hummed with the loud noise of cold chillers. Inside the cockpit, the air smelled like old engine oil and bitter coffee. Captain Elias Thorne sat at the controls. He was 42 years old. He had flown these slow trade routes for 20 years. Salas watched the man tap his fingers on the metal console. A faded paper picture of a golden dog hung next to the main screen. Thorne looked at the picture often. Next to Thorne, the ship's engineer rubbed a set of old metal tags hanging from his neck. The engineer looked worried about the sensor readings. The scanners showed strange shadows in the dark space ahead. "Just a dust storm," Thorne said. He gave a short, calm nod. They did not know the Vathari lead ships were coming. Or maybe, Salas thought as he watched the tapes, they knew exactly what was out there in the dark. When the Vathari warships dropped out of deep space, Thorne did not yell. He did not call his crew to fight. He did not ask the Empire for mercy over the radio. He reached under his desk. He pulled open a small metal door that looked untouched for 40 years. He pushed one flat red button. A single, quiet data pulse shot out into the deep black. 12 seconds later, Vathari fire turned the Wandering Saint into dust. Salas tracked where that single pulse went. The spy net followed the signal all the way to Earth Defense Command. The old record keeper pulled up the hidden camera feeds from the human base. The room sat buried miles under a cold mountain. Thousands of green dots glowed on the big screens. Admiral Sarah Vance stood in the center of the room. She was 58 years old. She stood with a stiff back, like a person who carried heavy rocks for a living. She had served her people for 33 years. Her eyes looked like chipped gray stone. A younger officer walked up to her desk. He handed her a piece of paper. The paper listed the dead crew from the cargo ship. It confirmed the loss of the Saint. Vance read the names. She did not slam her fist on the table. She did not yell angry orders to the room. She held a white clay tea mug in her right hand. A thin blue line ran around the rim. A small chip sat on the top edge of the cup. Vance set the mug down on her desk. The hard clink of the clay against the metal table echoed in the quiet room. She set it down with perfect, scary control. "Wake the Black Wolf Protocol," Vance said. Or rather, she breathed the words, as if she did not want them to be true. The younger officer froze in place. "Ma'am, the Vathari want us to give up Sector 4. They gave us 2 days to leave." "Open the gates," Vance said. She stared at the big map on the wall. Salas watched the screen as the human systems woke up. For 400 years, the Vathari Empire thought humanity was weak. The humans had no military ships. They only flew massive, slow cargo haulers and rock breakers. The Empire thought this meant they were easy targets. They did not understand human history. They did not know that a species could hide its fangs to keep itself from biting. Salas pulled up the new data flowing from Sector 4. His dark eyes grew wide. His hands started to shake again, harder this time. The data was wrong. It had to be wrong. Deep in the cold black of space, the human mining ships changed. Massive metal plates fell away from the sides of the rigs. The heavy drill heads split open like giant steel flowers. The dropped metal showed huge, long guns mounted straight down the middle of the ships. These were railguns, built to crack small moons. Magnetic rings glowed with a cold blue light. Bulk freighters opened their huge belly doors. They did not drop grain into space. Thousands of small, fast drone fighters poured out into the dark. The swarm moved like angry bees. The human ships went dark. They turned off their lights and waited. Dominus Vrexeth did not know this. He took his 7th Fleet straight toward the human border. Space folded and tore open. The Vathari ships dropped out of the slip space tunnel in perfect timing. 840 perfect warships moved in a tight, clean box shape. The ships shined in the starlight. They planned to crush the local guards, take the space, and build new camps. Salas watched the red and blue dots on his screen in the Imperial War Chamber. The Vathari fleet crossed the invisible border line. The border alarm screamed through the room. 2,400 human ships jumped into the space. They did not form a flat wall. They did not form a box. They formed a perfect ring around the Vathari fleet. They trapped the Empire ships inside a giant closing sphere. Salas gripped the edge of his table. The humans had not built warships. They had built a trap. They made their civilian tools into weapons. They hid the teeth behind the smile, a smile that lasted 4 centuries. The old man looked at the numbers. 840 Empire ships against over 2,000 human ships. The Vathari guns were made to fight other Navy ships. They shot straight. They fought with honor and rules. The human ships were built to crack planets and drag asteroids. They did not know any rules. Salas felt the cold air of the records room chill his skin. He saw the face of an Empire pilot on the video feed. The young pilot looked confused. The boy was maybe 20 years old. He tried to lock his hot plasma guns on a human cargo ship. The cargo ship did not shoot back with lasers. It shot a thick towing beam. The beam grabbed a huge loose space rock and threw it straight at the pilot's ship. The screen went black. Salas watched the main fleet battle unfold on the giant wall map. The fight did not last days. It lasted exactly 14 minutes. The humans fought with a cold, awful math. They came as miners. They fought as monsters. They left as ghosts. Vrexeth stood on the bridge of his lead ship. He yelled orders to fire back at the ring. Nothing worked. His bright plasma lines just bounced off thick rock shields. The human drone swarms flew right past the main guns. They cut the Vathari engines to pieces. They did not aim for the thick armor plates. They aimed for the weak life support boxes. They aimed for the air vents. Mining rigs used heavy gravity tools to crush the Empire hulls from the inside out. The thick metal groaned and popped. The terrible sounds bled through the open radio channels. Steel beams snapped like dry wood. The human ships moved in total silence. They sent no demands for surrender. They sent no anger. By the 9th minute, half the Vathari fleet was dead in the water. Ships spun out of control. By the 12th minute, the human ships stopped shooting. They let the broken Empire ships float in the dark. The metal hulls stayed in one piece, but the crews inside had no air and no heat. The flight systems froze solid. The screens went dark. 84,000 Vathari soldiers went into Sector 4. When the 14th minute ended, the human ring opened a tiny gap in the wall of ships. A single small escape boat shot out from Vrexeth's dead lead ship. Salas looked at the deep scan of the small boat. Exactly 18 people sat inside. Vrexeth was one of them. He was bleeding from a deep cut on his head. He was breathing fast and hard. The human fleet locked the escape boat's radio open. The whole Empire could hear the 18 men begging for a rescue ship. The humans did not spare them out of kindness. They left exactly 18 alive to send a clear message to the rest of the galaxy. It was a cold warning. 6 months passed. The Vathari Empire did not cross the human border again. They lost their sharp teeth in 14 short minutes. Salas walked down a dark stone hall on the capital world. The air smelled of old iron and deep shame. He stopped in front of a thick glass box. Water dripped from the stone ceiling, pooling around his bare feet. Dominus Vrexeth sat on the cold floor inside the cell. The guards had stripped away his heavy scale armor. He wore thin gray rags. His black claws shook as he stared at the blank wall. He had not spoken a full sentence in weeks. Salas held up a flat computer pad. The screen showed the new human border lines. The space was huge now. The humans had claimed a massive circle around their home systems. No one dared to fly near it. They had no military, Vrexeth whispered. His voice was broken and weak. He still did not understand. They were just civilians, cargo haulers. Salas looked at the fallen leader. His old heart felt heavy with a sad pity. The Empire had measured power by the sharpness of its swords. They did not look at the strength of the chains holding the monsters back. "You did not attack their shield," Salas said softly. "You broke their leash." The old record keeper tapped a button to close the border feeds on his pad. The final frozen image from the human base faded into the dark. The white clay mug sat alone on the metal desk, a single thin line of steam rising into the quiet room.